Brevin Jordan's injury, the offense looking good. The biggest takeaways from day 14 of Texans training camp. Let's talk about it. Presented by my friends at Platinum AC and Heating. So Brevin Jordan goes down with an injury in this practice. He leapt up trying to catch a high pass, and if he'd come down with it, he probably would have had a touchdown. Unfortunately, when he came down, he stayed down on the ground, and as teammates understood what was going on, they all hit their knees. Jordan was helped to his feet by trainers and by some teammates. He stayed standing until the cart came out, and then he was placed on the cart. And then the emotion started to get the best of Brevin Jordan as he started to weep with the injury. And I don't know if it was a combination of the pain that he was suffering or the idea that all the work that he had put in had now been for naught because of a serious injury. But it was tough to see. His teammates went over there to try to console him. In fact, the entire team eventually crowded around him and appeared to pray over Brevin Jordan as he continued to weep loudly. It was a pretty tough scene. I would say that it was in the same vein as when the team interacted with each other after Tank Dell's injury in Kansas City against the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Not as serious, but still in that same type of vein where players were consoling each other. Dalton Schultz consoled CJ Stroud. And again, after they prayed over Jordan, the players separated, watched him leave. They kind of took a minute to gather themselves. They all came up. D'Amico Ryan said a few words, and then practice had to continue. You have to feel terrible for Brevin Jordan. It is a tough situation for him. He tore his ACL in game 2 of the season last year, what could have been a breakout season for the tight end. The Texans believed in him, brought him back before last year was even done and he was even fully healthy, and he'd been excellent in this practice and in training camp so far. He'd gone from a player that I wasn't sure about heading into training camp to no doubt he's on the team and there's going to be a way to use him, and they're going to find ways to use Brevin Jordan. But this injury now, if it is as serious as it appeared, that's going to take him out of the equation, unfortunately, and you feel just horrible for Brevin Jordan. D'Amico Ryans talked about this after practice. It's not so much the injury as much as all the work that you put in to come back from that injury. You see what you can be after the injury, and to have that pop up on top of everything that you've dealt with coming back from the injury, that's the tough part for Brevin Jordan. I hope for a speedy recovery. I hope that we get the same type of news that we got with CJ Gardner-Johnson, where, hey, it looked bad, but it actually wasn't that worse. I hope that's the case. And if it's not, that's certainly an unfortunate situation for Brevin Jordan. It's unfortunate for the Houston Texans as well, because they had found a way to make Brevin Jordan a piece of their offense with CJ Stroud and company on the field. And it is just tough to see. You hate to see it happen in practice. You don't love that happening to anybody from any team, much less the hometown team that you're paying attention to out there. And I don't like covering things like this. It was a surreal moment to just be so quiet in the bubble and be able to hear what all was going on. Not a moment I ever really want to experience ever again. I hope I never have to cover something quite like that. It was not fun. It was not fun to watch the players have to go back to football after that. It's not fun watching Brevin Jordan get taken off on a cart. That's the ugly and the unfun part of sports. So that is unfortunate, and certainly hope the best for Brevin Jordan. What do the Texans do at the tight end position now without Brevin Jordan? He had a really good practice and had been a part of this offense. It caught some really good stuff from CJ Stroud in this practice and over the course of training camp. He's a guy that they use on special teams for some blocking stuff, and you can use him in a variety of tight end sets. 2 tight end sets. He can be a lone tight end. He can be a guy that helps out with some blocking. He can be a guy that flexes out and makes the defense account for him, and now that's not a part of the Texans offense. Well, you know about Dalton Schultz, you know about Cade Stover and what they bring to the table at the tight end spot. But after that was clearly Brevin Jordan in the mix with those two guys. Now with no Brevin Jordan, Irv Smith has been hurt for over a week now. He hasn't been practicing. You would think Irv Smith has a chance to maybe sneak in there as a tight end for this team. The team brought in Dalton Keene last week. He was signed in the middle of training camp. That does usually bode well for a player. And he's not even a true tight end as much as he's a fullback / tight end. So I don't know that Keene has really a chance at this. The 7th round pick, Luke Lachey out of Iowa, hasn't shown a ton up to this point. So not quite sure what he can bring to the table or what he'd be able to do for this Texans team. And it seems like maybe with the lack of display of comfort in the NFL that he's shown this far, he probably wouldn't be an option for the Texans. And then there's Jakob Johnson, who is the fullback who also plays some tight end and works out with the tight ends. That is a player that feels to me was going to be on the team as the fullback and do some tight end stuff. But now could they consider him as the third tight end? Could they put that on his workload and then be able to add a different body at a different position because you're not keeping a fullback and 3 tight ends. You're just keeping 3 tight ends with one of them being a fullback. I wouldn't anticipate that they have to go get somebody, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they had to add a tight end body to camp to finish out some of these preseason games that they still have left. So don't expect a move, but it wouldn't surprise me. And of course, anybody that they bring in is probably an underdog to make the roster, but an unfortunate thing to go down. But they still have Dalton Schultz. He's looked really good in training camp so far. Cade Stover looks like a much more comfortable player than a year ago, but it would have been nice to see him with Brevin Jordan. They won't, it seems, be able to see that with Brevin Jordan anytime soon. So that is an unfortunate element. They got to figure out what that tight end room is going to look like here in a few weeks when the 53-man roster arrives and who might be a candidate for the practice squad to maybe help out down the road should things arise in the tight end room. When things arise with your air conditioner, Platinum AC and Heating is who you go to. I had my AC go kaput on me early in the summer. I went to Dwayne at Platinum AC and Heating, full replacement of my air conditioner, done lickety split. It was fantastic. Dwayne can do that for you, from repairs to replacements to simple preventative maintenance. Did you know you need to regularly service your air conditioner? If you haven't been, call Dwayne at Platinum AC and Heating. Have him come out, just check out the AC, see what's going on there, get on the service plan, and you'll always be in tip-top shape when you call Platinum AC and Heating. Dwayne's the best in the business. What else happened at camp outside of the tight end situation, the injury to Brevin Jordan? What was the best offensive day that the offense has had? CJ Stroud looked like he was in the zone. He was dialed in. He was fantastic in this practice. In Team 2, at the back end of Team 2, the Team 2 period, he had 3 straight plays where the heat was coming down on him. The heat was bearing down on CJ Stroud. What did he do? He stood tall. He delivered the football on time to 3 different receivers. Brevin Jordan on one play, a dart to Dalton Schultz past a Jalen Smith coverage rep, and then a beauty to the outside to Christian Kirk for a first down. Just with the heat coming at him, CJ Stroud stood and delivered. And that was after the defense had a pretty good start to practice. You had some Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter pass rush success. You had some stuffs of some of the early runs, but Stroud was not beaten down by that. He came out there, and in Team 2 and in Team 3, he was surgical. And again, I say he was like he was in a zone. He was fully dialed in, and he was putting the ball wherever he wanted. He was standing inside the offensive pocket and allowing the pressure to get there, but getting the ball rid of it before the pressure really got to him. And then in Team 3, starting in their own territory, Stroud, Nico Collins over the middle. He hit Brevin Jordan for a beauty over on the sideline, where the pressure had kind of collapsed the pocket a little bit. Stroud couldn't step into it, so it was all arm, and he just placed it right where Brevin Jordan could make that play, hit an out to Dalton Schultz once they got back on the field after the injury to Jordan, and then hit just a missile to Schultz in the front of the end zone for a touchdown against that defense. I mean, they matriculated down the field with ease. The offense did. It was the best day they've had. It was the only day that I would say the offense earned a knockout over the defense. It looked like the defense was going to get to them early, but the offense took care of their business, and it was the best day for them as an offensive unit. You really started to see how that quick developing stuff kind of wears on the defense. Then all of a sudden guys are getting loose because the play's running on time and the play is schemed up and it develops the right way. You really started to see what this offense can do when it looks, and it looked in this one. It's a really good job by C.J. Stroud and the offense. I talked about some of that heat, some of that pressure getting to C.J. Stroud. Well, when it says good pressure in my notebook, that's a good job by C.J. Stroud and the five guys in front of him to get rid of it when they need to get rid of it. Look, this offensive line is not going to be the offensive line that sits there and lets the quarterback have all day long to throw the football. That's not going to be what they do. But can they give him just enough so that he can operate on time, so that he can extend a play here and there and get rid of the football to playmakers to go out there and win? Absolutely they can. And I felt like there were some really good offensive line moments. There was one where Brevin Jordan comboed with Ariante Ursary to take down Daniil Hunter. He got nowhere. There was a really good rep by Titus Howard against Will Anderson at one point on a pass rush rep. It was a good job. Now, obviously, Ursary and Howard aren't standing up Anderson and Hunter every single time. Those guys got home a little bit, but the interior offensive line feels like it's starting to come together, and they're being able to keep that three interior spots solid and not let it just fall into C.J. Stroud's lap. When he's got enough time, even though the pressure's coming in, and I considered it good pressure, when he's got enough time, that's because the three guys, the two guards and the center, were holding up. And today, the tackle to tackle left to right grouping was Ariante Ursary, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram, and Titus Howard. Later on, there was a swap. Jarrett Patterson played center and Juice Scruggs played left guard. It feels like those are 7 of the 9 offensive linemen that are headed towards this roster when things are all said and done for training camp and the regular season is here. And if they had to play a football game tomorrow, I believe that the offensive line, left to right, would be Ursary, Tomlinson, Andrews, Ingram, and Howard. That right guard spot between Ingram and Scruggs, that's the one where they could flip and change things. Now, that obviously all changes if Cam Robinson gets healthy. If Robinson gets healthy, then he's back at left tackle, Ursary's back at right tackle, and Howard bumps back down to right guard. That, to me, is the best offensive line that they have with Andrews and Tomlinson rounding things out. But if Robinson his injury lingers, he's not back, or he comes back and they just decide they liked Ursary more there at left tackle, then we know what's going to happen over there at right tackle. Not Blake Fisher, Titus Howard at right tackle. Those are the big takeaways from day 14. Of course, this week, joint practice with the Carolina Panthers, preseason game with the Carolina Panthers. Big week. It's moving week for everybody on this roster. Got to go out there and impress this week in practice and in the joint practice to get things done. What'd you make of the observations today? Man, how bad do you feel for Brevin Jordan? Let me know in the comment section down below. On the way down there, throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out SNL, myself and Landry Locker from the Locker Room each and every weekday at 4 p.m. So you don't want to miss out on that. Appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait. Until we talk Texans again soon,